Hello and welcome to this Symantec hosted webinar, Cloud in Action. Today we're going to look at cloud, what it means to SMBs, and how you as resellers, what it gives you in terms of an opportunity to get in front of your customers and to make extra incremental sales. So I'm joined today by a couple of industry experts on both the channel perspective and on the total industry overview of what we are talking about in the cloud. So let me introduce Apay and Dale.
Apay Obang-Oyway, General Manager, Enterprise Software and Services, Ingram Micro UK.
Dale.
Dale Vile, Research Director at Freeform Dynamics, and one of the things I'm going to be talking about today is some of the research we've done specifically into the topic of what we're talking about today, which is the use of cloud in the SMB space and the reseller opportunity.
Okay, so what is cloud? Apay, you have a everyone has a very wide definition, but you put it into some good words.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, everyone has, and if you ask 5 people in the industry what does cloud actually mean to them, I guarantee you'll have 5 different answers. Certainly from my perspective, I'd say to you that cloud is a delivery of technology services using a consumption model that's usually a monthly recurring revenue approach. And that's the simplest way for me to really describe what is cloud without going into some of the technical nuances that everyone has an understanding of or different understandings of.
Okay.
Yeah, I kind of go along with that because a lot of people talk about cloud from an architectural perspective, and cloud in the context of data center modernization. Private cloud is a term that's used in that context. I think the real disruptive thing that's going on though in the market is when you're starting to deliver solutions using that consumption model. And there are a number of terms that people use in that area that many people will have come across. So infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and so on. The one that actually came through very strongly in some of the research that we've conducted recently is software as a service, particularly with SMBs. It's not that the others aren't relevant, but software as a service, which is really about taking business applications and some operational solutions as a service rather than installing software locally, seems to be something that SMBs think is a good idea.
So should resellers be worried about this as is it an alternative, a way of displacing software sales, or should they be seizing the opportunity?
Certainly from my perspective and our organization, we see it as an opportunity. It's an opportunity to acquire new customers, it's an opportunity to retain existing customers, and it's an opportunity to grow existing customers in terms of your depth of relationship with them.
Right.
It is certainly something we would consider as an overarching opportunity for the business to move and evolve into a new world and not a threat per se.
Yeah, I mean, we do hear a lot of people talking about, the whole world is changing, the existing business models are going to disappear and cloud is going to take over everything. That's not what we're finding in practice, and it comes through quite strongly in the research that cloud is something which is allowing organizations, if you look at it from a buyer perspective, to do new things that they wouldn't normally be able to do that conveniently using traditional on-prem type solutions, and a number of areas which we'll maybe touch on a little bit later. But the bottom line is that it's essentially an incremental set of activities which are unfolding alongside traditional business, and that's an important thing to take on board, I think.
So small, medium businesses are doing this as an incremental. Do resellers, do they need to shift their whole business over to the cloud to add to that?
Absolutely not. Those that have a strong and viable on-premise business need to continue that focus and continue investing in this. We certainly believe there is going to be a world and an increased demand in professional services, managed services, cloud services, but on-premise too world. So it's a hybrid world is what we're going to see and we're going to exist within. It just depends on the type of end user organization. What is their current business strategy today? What's the business strategy they're trying to evolve into for tomorrow? And therefore, what is the IT strategy that will enable that business strategy? So it really just depends.
So the range of possibilities is fairly broad.
It's absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I totally reinforce that, and the research really backs this up. What we're hearing back loudly and clearly is that small and medium businesses are looking to mix and match cloud services with on-prem solutions. So they're not necessarily looking, I mean, there might be the odd one that wants to throw everything into the cloud, but largely speaking, they're bringing in new solutions, things like CRM, things like comms and collaboration, some of the risk management solutions as well, things like backup and recovery, security and so on. The things that actually traditionally have been fairly hard or costly, or they really haven't had the wherewithal to do through on-prem solutions, they can do fairly happily through the cloud. But that doesn't mean to say they're getting rid of the stuff that's actually in place already. So you're ending up with that kind of hybrid world of on-prem and cloud coexisting.
Absolutely.
And that brings us on to sort of what are we helping them do? What are we as vendors? What are you as distributors helping? How are we supporting that transformation from pure software sales to the hybrid model?
I think I'll certainly focus on three key things that we at Ingram Micro have been doing over the past 18 months, and in fact longer, if you consider our US organization as well. And it's really around education, people, and tools. Education, first thing, is that if you're moving your business, or actually not moving, but enhancing your existing on-premise business by adding a cloud practice or a service practice, you really need to understand what it is I'm getting into. What are the challenges? What are the opportunities? How do I really need to model my business for tomorrow? What type of people do I need to have? What type of sales organization do I need to have? What type of marketing, service delivery model, etc.? There's a lot of complexity, including systemic challenges and questions that they need to have an answer around some of the public cloud services that exist out in the market. So all of that education is something certainly we deliver through an event that we run once a quarter, an education boot camp called Managed Service Provider University. So that's just an example of education. When we talk about people, we have business development managers that are 98% of their time is spent within our partner community, helping partners really enable a cloud strategy, helping them get ready for where they want to be, from sales training to marketing, content planning, etc. But certainly all their goal and all their focus is trying to help partners realize or exploit the opportunity that we see as cloud today. And then tools. It's certainly very important that the tools of today are enhanced to make sure that they can exploit the opportunities of tomorrow. So we have tools available to partners today that can help them just analyze their current end user database and find out actually which are the current partners or customers that I have that have the greatest potential or propensity to move to the cloud today, and which ones have the propensity to move tomorrow. So those are really three key things I'd call out in terms of what we're doing differently.
Okay. Well, I'm going to add, because from our point of view as a vendor, on the tools side, so that we supply a tool that allows allows resellers to gain a depth of understanding of the customers that they have. So it's a way of looking at all of their customers who are on the cloud service and seeing the estates of each of those customers, and seeing whether they're using the software, the cloud service properly, whether they've installed it properly, and if not, going in and helping them. But also if there are changes, then going in and using that and seeing the change in the customer, and using that as a way of saying, I need to go in and upsell possibly to them because they've taken on more people, and ways of doing that. And that tool, that's something, because it's a hosted service that we're providing, we can wrap that around as another hosted service, but we actually give that away to resellers for nothing as a tool, which I think is all power to help them gain that, sort of go in front of the customer again and make more sales.
And I think talking about this sort of know-how, best practice, tooling and so on, education, I mean, this is really important because a lot of the conversations we have with resellers normally net out to, we don't really know what we don't know, and that's largely why they don't get into the cloud business model. And a lot of it is about confusion. It's about, not really, maybe listening to some of the critics and some of the hype, and not really being able to make sense of how that translates into a practical, actionable plan. But the one thing I would say is, Apay was talking about it. There is a lot to think about. It can be quite complex, and there are some things that really have to change. But you don't have to work it all out for yourself. I mean, you guys have done a lot of that thinking. You've put a lot of the tooling in place, and it really isn't as scary as I think a lot of people think. You are going to have to change your business in some areas, but this isn't. You're not trying to work things out from first principles with a blank sheet of paper, and I think that's a really, really important thing to understand.
I think it's quite interesting. We had a partner event not so long ago, and I remember during the keynote presentation I was delivering, a partner put their hand up and said, we went through a list of all the different cloud services that we offer. Which one should I choose? It's a great question, but actually you're missing the point here. The first thing is, where do you want to be? It's not as simple as actually we think you should go with vendor X because we know that they have the right solution out there and they've invested and have delivered good technology. Does that fit your strategy? You've really got to understand where you want to be, understand your customers, and from that point understand therefore what are these services I'm going to start offering into my current customer base and also the new customer base I'm trying to acquire moving forward. But absolutely, it is not as complex as perhaps people think it is in the market.
So that answers sort of that first step for the reseller. But are we seeing anything as the first step for the customer? So at that point, the pull and the customers moving, what's typically their first steps? I think Dale, you've seen.
Yeah, well, I think we see two main areas in which people move initially. One of them is when they, something that they've wanted to do for a while, or some change in working practices. A really simple example is, we see a lot of mobile equipment now starting to crop up in organisations and small businesses. This stuff moves very, very quickly, a lot more quickly than quite often in the enterprise space. So they're sitting there with all this mobile equipment, but they've got an infrastructure which really isn't very mobile friendly in terms of getting access into their data, their email, and so on. So quite often that prompts, what should we be doing in terms of upgrading our email system, or maybe looking at a modern CRM solution, or some kind of way in which we can get to our content when we're out on the road and so on. That's a really simple example of a business that's looking to do new stuff. Well, actually, cloud quite often inherently brings that kind of mobile connectivity with it. It's a natural part of most cloud services. The other areas is where maybe most small business owners we talk to, they know they should do a better job of security. They read in the press, a lot of the new risks that are appearing. They know they should be doing more to back up and secure their data. They're also accumulating a lot of data, so they need to think about what to do with it. Well, actually, things like cloud backup, cloud archiving, all these kind of solutions are a natural starting point. And what it boils down to is really not disrupting a lot of what's in place already. It's about bringing new things to bear on your business. And the research that we conducted, the report that came out of the back of it, very much the flavour is how to actually up your game with cloud, and that's written for the buyer audience, if you like. But that's really the message which comes through when we talk to early adopters. They're using cloud to kind of up their game, whether it's value or risk management.
So for the resellers, this is what the SMBs are doing. They're adding incrementally to their thing, to what they can do. The resellers can then use that customer base and sit there and say, well, how can I go back into my customers again, having sold them the whole infrastructure in the first place, and add value for them to help them become a successful partner. Is that?
Absolutely. I mean, I would certainly say that what cloud really allows the reseller partners in SMB today is really to be the IT partner of choice for their end customers. What I mean by that is that before, the conversation used to be about what do you need from a laptop, a device of some sort, and the reseller would very much, here's the SKU, here's the price, thanks very much, see you later, and sort of leave the challenge of integration and really realizing that investment to the end customer. Today, what you're seeing is certainly a lot more SMB resellers having to be part of that value, having to be part of that conversation today, not with the IT manager, not in many SMB organizations, in fact, they don't have an IT manager, right? It's the business owner, right? Yeah. So they are now going in and sitting down with the board, if you like, and being part of that strategic conversation. Where do we want to be today? Where do we want to be tomorrow? And actually, what IT strategy do we need to employ to achieve that? And that's important, that's crucial, because you are now part of and you're entangled into the conversation or into the business development of that customer. You are a valuable asset, if you like, of that particular customer. Yeah. So to actually be decoupled from that relationship is very, very difficult if you do a good job in introducing the right cloud solutions from day one. So that's the difference that this brings. But if you don't do a good job, then yes, absolutely. What end customers are demanding more and more is a higher level and a higher value of relationship with their own IT supplier, for want of a better term. Because I said the reason I use for a better term, if you like, on this is that I don't think it's an IT supplier anymore. It is an IT partner and a business partner.
Yeah, okay, can I just add to that? Because what comes through from the research actually is a lot of SMBs have lived with things for years, constraints around IT. They don't realise that certain things can be done. And they're not necessarily asking for that kind of partnership. So some are looking for that partnership, but they're certainly open to the partnership idea if it's put to them. And what cloud solutions represent, particularly around software as a service and some of the areas that we discussed before, is the opportunity to go in there, start those business conversations, but with the ability to follow through without huge capital investment, without lots of complex implementation and so on. So you can start solving a problem. And I can tell you, once you start adding some new capability that actually matters and is appreciated at board level, selling that next deal becomes that much easier, and the one after that is easier again. So it's really good from an account development point of view.
Absolutely.
That also lends itself to the term stickiness that we see in cloud services, and the customer retention. And I know that's part of the difference in business models between a sale and walk away and the subscription model.
I think that's an important point, because if you consider what's happening with renewals business and generally what you need to start to build into your business in terms of resilience for the future, it's that monthly recurring revenue. Mm-hmm. So if you want to start to move down a cloud road, probably the first thing is actually, can I move some of my on-premise business today to a monthly recurring revenue model, to a recurring revenue model? And then from that start to build beyond on-premise into the cloud, because I actually understand the motion of recurring revenue and how that's being built into my business.
And that fits really well from a customer perspective as well, because a lot of people who talk about they talk about cloud and subscription as if the two are intricately linked, whereas in fact they're not at all. And if you break out what cloud is about, part of it is about hosting, certainly. Part of it is about a third party managing a big chunk of whatever it is that's being delivered, and part of it is about the subscription model. You can actually take any one of those and mix and match them with traditional delivery, and I think that's a really important point.
Well, that allows the reseller then to deliver the appropriate service.
Yeah.
So whether it's shifting that capex to opex. With the subscription, or if the company isn't ready for that, but they are ready for a hosted service, being able to deliver that.
Can I make a point here? Because I think there's one thing that we talked about. You talked about educating resellers on new ways of doing things, new ways of selling, and so on. What I've seen is that where a reseller has had a traditional business that's been focused on projects and products essentially, and they've actually started to introduce a cloud element, annuity element, subscription services, and so on. Actually, they've seen a benefit in their other business lines as well, because they up their game. You almost have to think longer term. You have to think a little bit more strategically at a relationship level with your customer, and that has a real good impact. You end up selling them more traditional stuff as well as the cloud stuff.
Absolutely, great point. Yeah.
No, I think that's good. We've heard about the way that we constructively support the resellers. People, tools, and education. Business model support. We as a vendor have a number of ways of dealing with us in that we supply software that you can buy on subscription. We supply hosted software that you can buy on subscription in a number of different ways that we can get in. How easy is it for resellers to buy a range of these types of things through the channel?
Certainly from Ingram Micro's perspective, we think it's very easy. As I said earlier on, I think the challenge is not actually the ease of transaction. The challenge is actually knowing which engagement I want to have. From our perspective, we see our role as three things really. First of all is opportunity identification. We have to help our reseller partners identify the right opportunities for their business and their end customers. Secondly, we need to help them make the right investment decisions, in which case, right? So not just investment in the type of people, the type of systems, generally how they build that business, the investment decisions they make. And thirdly, certainly, it's about helping them identify the right partners or the right people to partner with or the right organizations to partner with, who should be their vendor of choice, who should be their service delivery partner of choice, etc. All of that is important in exploiting opportunities that are out in the market, but those are really the three core things in terms of our role in the market in this new cloud world that we talk about.
Yeah, and I think that the important thing that comes out of that, as we were saying, not all customers are going to look the same. They're going to all have different blends and preferences of services and solutions, and the kind of mix of on-prem versus cloud. Similarly with resellers, I've noticed that the ones that have actually moved down the cloud route have ended up in different places quite often. I mean, some of them put the emphasis on delivering a total hosted managed service, and they might partner with someone who can provide that kind of hosting space for them. Others are very happy to sort of work with global players like Symantec and actually pass through services to the resellers. But also there's in-betweeny models where you can sort of deliver on-prem software essentially as a service, as a managed service on a subscription basis. Right. So none of these things are mutually exclusive, and I think it's absolutely right, as Apay was saying, about the need to actually just have a think about what are the most common sorts of scenarios you're going to come across in your particular user base, and how do you want to actually address those. And that's where the kind of education and some of the support services that you provide, I think, are important. Because again, it's not rocket science. If you've been there and done that before, and you'll look back on it and you'll think, why did I think it was so hard? But you do have to go through that process, and it does help to have some expertise in the mix.
Okay, so we've looked at what cloud services SMBs are using, which ones they might want to use first, how that plays to the reseller and allows them to get in front of their customers again, add incremental value, add deep value to their customers, to not only broaden the relationship and gain new customers, but deepen the relationship with those particular customers. We've looked at the tools and the support that are provided through the channel and also from the vendors themselves. We've looked at different models, how easy it is for resellers to get into the cloud business, but also why it's easy and why SMBs are doing it on the incremental value that they got by adding that in. And that support that we give in terms of education and tools and people to help them set up and help them define where in the cloud world their business model is best suited and where their customers are going. So those are the things that we think we've put out there. That should get them in front of more customers, help resellers earn more money, which is what we're all hoping they do. Is there anything I've missed from that list of what we've covered?
Yeah. Shall I go for it? Okay. Well, the one thing I'd reiterate is that not all of the SMBs out there are actually into cloud yet, but the one thing that pretty much all of the ones we spoke to had in common was the fact that they exhibit all of the symptoms of needing cloud-type solutions. They tell us that, you know, they've got a shortage of skills, they've got a shortage of resources, they don't like spending, you know, big chunks of money on capital equipment, and so on. But they want to do new stuff, and cloud is pretty much the answer to a lot of those problems. So you're pushing against an open door, and that's the big message I think I'd like to leave resellers with. There is demand out there, even if it's not coming knocking on your door. It takes a very, very little amount of conversation to actually uncover that demand and sell into it.
So even if they don't know they want cloud, they're actually expressing that they do want it.
You can easily put it on the table, and they can very quickly see the relevance of it. Yeah.
And Apay, we didn't talk about the Channel Transformation Alliance, but this is an initiative from Ingram Micro.
Sure. So we've got together with a number of key vendor partners of ours, such as Symantec, and put together a Channel Transformation Alliance, which helps partners really go through the list of education that they need to go through in order to transition their business into cloud services. I certainly would also like to kind of add to Dale's point in that our reseller partners need to consider that the end user challenge that they face today and tomorrow is really around innovation, cost management, or sustainable competitive advantage. And those are the questions really that need to be answered.
Right.
And what they're looking for, and certainly what we're seeing, is that for the IT partner to help them answer some of those questions. Not all of them, but certainly some of those questions, and be part of bringing a solution together, executing on that solution. But all of those challenges, if you like, and ways of educating yourselves around how do I realize this opportunity, exploit this opportunity, is part of our Channel Transformation Alliance.
Great, thank you. In summary, cloud is a great opportunity. The demand is certainly there, and you can get all the support you need from us and from Ingram Micro. Further information is at www.symantec.co.uk/cloud in action, all one word. So I want to thank Dale, Apay, and thank you for watching.